A home buyer has always paid all of the commission, or we should say compensation. So really, what do I mean? So for many years in the real estate world, we would see real estate agents saying, especially for those that represented a buyer, that, if you work with me as a buyer, it's free. It has never, ever, ever been free. Let me keep it simple, or make it simple for some of you. When a homeowner would go to sell their home, as a real estate agent, what would we do? We would come see you. We would go through the process of listing your home, maybe tour your home. Then we would talk about compensation. We'd sign an agency agreement to put your property on the market. When we would go over compensation, we would say the amount we were charging you, and then we would say we are sharing the compensation with the buyer's agent. Then our MLSs would tell the buyer's agent what they were getting paid. So buyers were never in a position where what they were doing, or let me say this differently. Let me figure this out. When we worked with buyers, it was never free. When a buyer would go to purchase a home, our MLSs would say what the listing brokerage was going to give us if we sold the home. And the reality of this is it's actually easier that way. And some of you might say, well, Carrie, what about all these lawsuits? Now, I'm not here to tell you or explain the lawsuits to you. I'm saying that there are going to be some unintended consequences of what's happening in the real estate world. So I'm going to make it easy. So let's just say I go and put a property on the market working with a seller for $100,000. And let's say total compensation agreed on by the seller was going to be $1,000. And let's say my brokerage said, we are going to share this equally with an agent that brings in the buyer. So 500 to the listing brokerage, 500 to the agent that brings in the buyer, or the buyer's brokerage. Of that money, when we go to close on the property, and let's just say that the buyer is getting a mortgage, when this property sells and there are other closing costs, that $1,000 is going to be taken from the proceeds of the seller. So the seller is not going to walk away with the $1,000. In the buyer situation, the buyer is financing the entire $1,000. You're like, well, wait a minute, Carrie, what? Yes, the buyer is still paying their buyer's agent. They're just not feeling the pain because they probably mortgaged it over 30 years. So for someone that's paying cash, if I came to closing with cash and I'm the buyer, I am literally paying for my own compensation. Now, of course, we want you to work with real estate agents. You want to be exclusively represented. That'll be another video. So if you are out here, whether you're a buyer's agent or you are someone looking to buy a home, do I believe you need your own representation? Yes. But you must always know that you are paying compensation to your agent, whether it's coming out of your own pocketbook, whether it's being financed out of the proceeds from the seller's side of the deal, or even if you ask for a closing cost credit, you are still paying your agent. Now, in some situations, there are buyers that can pay their own fees, but the unintended consequences are for the people out there that when they go to buy a home, they are coming with maybe 3% down. Then they also have to pay closing costs and they just don't have the extra funds. Now, when you work with a real estate agent, we can figure out how to negotiate that. But as of today, as of this recording, we're in a seller's market, and there are going to be some buyers that are going to lose because of these unintended consequences. So if you are a buyer and you are out there looking for a home, let me just give you some tips. Number one, save your money. Number two, work with a real estate agent that truly understands the value of working with a loan officer that gets you fully underwritten. And number three, understand what's happening in the marketplace and know when you go to write an offer, especially after August 17th, there might be properties where the seller says, I don't want to pay a buyer's agent. What does that really mean for you? And when you work with a real estate agent, we can give you so many different options on how you can move forward. I'm Carrie Little, the designated managing broker of Caremark Realty Group. If you have questions, type them in the feed, send me a private message. Let's talk about this because I want to make sure that every buyer out there that wants to own a home has the ability to do so. Follow me over on Instagram, Carrie Jo Little, and TikTok, and you can follow my brokerage on Instagram, Caremark Realty.